we're good. All right, thank you, Alyssa. All right, so last week, Friday, I believe, I gave you how to do introductions, and we didn't talk about conclusions, but we talked about different ways to create an introduction. So one of the ways we looked at was to tell a story, one of them was a quote, one of them was an interesting fact. So today in groups, I have an article for you, because remember we talked about how you have to do some research, you have to have some background information. So we're writing an essay about the Trail of Tears. Oh, and by the way, you can do whatever you chose because enough people, both choices were chosen. So whatever you want, question you want to do, you're good. So this is an article, it was in the paper, and I think, is this the one, who sent this to me? Harris? Did you send this to me?
Maybe.
Yeah, this was the one.
Yeah.
So remember I told you about one of the first things Trump did when he became president was he took out the portrait of Andrew Jackson?
Yeah.
Yes? Okay, so this is a little article from the Washington Post, and also when we talk about sources, so is the Washington Post a reliable source?
Yeah.
Yes. And then you look at the date. This is May 3rd, 2017. How much time ago is that?
A year.
2 years. Not even a year.
Thank you. Not, what year?
Wait, 2017?
So it's a
Oh my god, it's
year.
2019, I forgot.
That's
Yeah, it's 2019.
Yeah.
So it's not 2 years, it's like,
Almost
Year and a half.
yeah, it is a year and a half, okay. So is that fairly recent? Because we're talking about an old
Yeah.
president, we're talking about a former president, we're talking about the president who's still president. So it's fairly recent, so the information should be okay. So these are the things we always want to look at to make sure we have a good source. So this is called, Trump called Andrew Jackson a swashbuckler, the Cherokees called him Indian killer. So what I want you to do, I'm gonna give each one of you at the table, I see your hand, I'll be right with you, and you're gonna read this, and then what or actually we'll read it together because it's pretty short. And then you're gonna go in your group, you're gonna create an introduction based on information you get from this article. So remember, you're writing an essay on the Trail of Tears. So we want some information for our introduction. So we're gonna use the information we get from here, and you're gonna create an introduction that uses this information. So you will need a highlighter or a pencil to help annotate, so that as we're reading, you can highlight information that you think might be important. And again, any word that you don't know, make sure you highlight it, or since we're reading it together, you can just raise your hand, all voices are off. So Zakella, you had a question?
Is a swashbuckler a negative term or a positive term?
But Zakella asked a really good question, and because it has to do with the title, so I would like to hear your responses to that, but I need hands up. Yes, Harris.
I would think it's a negative thing.
Why? Why do you think it's negative?
Because it said the Cherokees called him an Indian killer. And
Okay, so would you say Indian killer is negative or positive?
Negative.
That's, okay, we can all agree that that's negative? Okay, so why is
It
swashbuckler
seems like a
negative?
bad thing.
No.
Okay, well, do you know what a swashbuckler is?
No.
Alright, so so that's important. So in order to understand if it's positive or negative, we have to know what it is. Alex.
So I could say the Cherokees called him an Indian killer. Trump calls him a swashbuckler. So like it's like two negative
And then
things.
Alright, so do you
Tends to
think
be
this,
like
alright, so
bad things.
let's go back to background information. Let's go back, well, one person talking at a time. Let's go back to background information. What did I start this little conversation with? What did I tell you that Trump did, Zakella?
I took out Andrew Jackson's painting, so I'm guessing it's a negative term, but
Okay, so if Trump took the trouble to take out, because Andrew Jackson's portrait had been stored away, Trump goes to the trouble of having it brought in. And remember I told you, not only did he bring it out, where is this portrait
In
hanging?
the front of it.
In the Oval Office, which is where the president works. So if Trump went to all that trouble, do you think he has a positive feeling about Jackson or a negative feeling? Positive. So let's go back. So not knowing what swashbuckler is, do you think this is positive?
Yeah.
Right, so in this headline, we have opposites, right? So you're right, the Cherokee, we can tell this one's definitely negative, but you gotta think about the context. So, and what do we do? If we don't know what a swashbuckler is, what do we have to do? We have to look it up. Yes, Alyssa?
so also if you think about it, like Trump's seeing Andrew Jackson as sort of a
clearly he's seen him as sort of a good person as the Indian.
He sees him as a very positive.
Yeah, as like the,
Right. So I will tell you what a swashbuckler is. So swashbuckler, it goes like, I know from like the old movies where they would have like the pirates, they'd have sword fights. So a swashbuckler is somebody who comes in to save the day. It's usually somebody who fights with the sword or is like some kind of hero. They were very popular in the movies in the 30s and 40s. They would save the damsel in distress and then and they would fight the bad guy. And so they were somebody who was brave, seen as a hero, not afraid to use force, not afraid to save the day. So somebody who's a swashbuckler, it does have a positive. And what's that word? Does anybody remember that word? Connotation. So swashbuckler. So again, that headline.
So it's brave
And
and
we're going to raise our hands if we have something to say. So again, so Trump is looking at. So that's important to understand. So we've got these two sides because we're talking about the Trail of Tears. What group is involved in the Trail of Tears? Cherokee, and who was president or who signed the order? He wasn't president when they actually lived, but who signs the order? Andrew Jackson. So, all right. So this is Donald Trump has a portrait of Andrew Jackson hanging by his desk in the Oval Office. On Monday, in an interview with Selena Zito, the 45th president, this is another way to talk about Trump, lauded the seventh president. What is lauded?
complimented.
Yes, so let's highlight that word because that's a word that might be unfamiliar. He lauded the seventh president, calling Jackson a swashbuckler who could have prevented the Civil War. So he's not only liking Jackson, he's saying he could have prevented the Civil War. That's how much he likes him. The Cherokees had a different name for Jackson. They called him Indian Killer. And the Creek, remember there were 5 civilized tribes. The Creek were part of it. The Creeks, what do the Creeks call him? Shark Knife. Okay? So we learned a lot in this. We learned what number president was Jackson.
No.
45th.
Because
I'm
knife
not even gonna
kills
answer. What do you think?
45th.
So President Trump is the 45th. Andrew Jackson is what number? 7. So we learned a lot in just those few lines. On May 28, 1830, Jackson signed the Indian Removal Act, which Native Americans say was a form of legalized ethnic cleansing. Remember, we talked about this, right? That that's what the whole Trail of Tears, right? The Indian Removal Act, we can take their property. Yes.
What's ethnic cleansing?
Ethnic cleansing is, again, it's a term. What's the Marissa?
Well, I don't know if this is exactly right, but like getting rid of like an ethnicity. So like getting rid of a group of people.
For who they are.
Yeah.
Right. And these are words, again, genocide gets very controversial. Some people, and we've seen this, we've talked about this without this, so
Like-
this removal, yes,
Like
Marissa?
a praying town would be a way of like cleansing and like getting rid of whatever, ethnic background they had to bring them into one that
Right, you
other
don't have to
people
kill them
want.
necessarily, you can just remove their culture, remove
Yeah.
what makes them individuals and unique, right. All right, so again, this is what we were talking about. The act forced more than 60,000 Native Americans from their lands in the southeast United States, specifically what state? Georgia, clearing the way for white pioneers. Native Americans were forced to walk hundreds of miles to resettle west of the Mississippi River. Historians believe more than 15,000 died on the difficult journey. Yes.
I thought 4,000 died.
Again, no, and that particular group, but there are other groups that went out as well. The Cherokee, 4,000 to 6,000, they said, but again, they're not 100% sure, and there were multiple groups that went out. But again, if you notice how historians believe, because again, there's not 100% agreement on it. Yes, Zakella.
Pioneer.
Pardon?
Pioneer.
Oh, see, Zakella, did you highlight it?
Isn't that like
Like a
Voices off. Raise your hand if you have something. Yes.
kind of like journey. I don't really
You're
like wilderness. I don't.
okay. You're on the right track. That's where we think of them. But that's where we think of them. Voice. I see. Marissa has her hand up. Yes.
like a person who like is willing to fight, like somebody who's like not like strong, but like I don't know how to put it, like in a way of being like a strong, like
Not in the term of fighting. There's a different meaning. Will.
Like risk.
Well, pioneers absolutely took risks. Absolutely, Zakella.
They're
Is
on track.
someone like discovering a new home or?
Yeah, so pioneer is somebody who goes first. Like we talk about the pioneers who were new to basically the white settlers, like the Pilgrims were pioneers. They're the first ones to go in. They're the first ones to check out the land. But again, the first Europeans, because there's obviously
Where does it
people
say
there.
pioneer?
Second line.
Oh.
The add force more the white because the white pioneers, notice they put the word white in front of pioneers. So it's really, remember we talked, they wanted to make way for people coming in.
So first to enter.
After Jackson left the White House in 1837, Cherokees were pushed off their land during the winter of 1838 and 1839. So here's what you're talking about, Sakella. More than 4,000 Cherokee died from hunger, exposure, and disease on their march west, which became known as the Trail of Tears. Yes.
If they took out Andrew Jackson's portrait, if they put in Andrew Jackson's portrait, who'd they take out? Wouldn't they have to take out?
That's a good question. You just find out who did. Maybe he made room for it, or maybe he took somebody else down. But that's a good question. I'm not sure. We should find.
Or
You
maybe
can
there's
find
just
that's a Google
nothing
question.
there, maybe.
Yes.
Semi-related. So what's my question? Oh yeah. So then I forgot my question. I'll ask later.
Okay, we'll ask again. Okay. So Jackson, who was 61 when he became president in 1829, was considered a military hero who had defeated the British in the Battle of New Orleans in 1815. That was the War of 1812. By then, Old Hickory, as Jackson was nicknamed, had already used troops against warring factions of the Creek Nation and imposed harsh terms during peace negotiations, according to the National Park Service, which operates a historic Trail of Tears route. Yes, Sakella.
Sorry, this is my question. When the Cherokees, obviously, do they get to come back to where their land was and claim it back for them? It was technically there. Probably people already lived there. Do
What
they
do you
get to
think?
take it back? No.
No, right. And that's when we get to the next article. We're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Right. It's not the Cherokee. They no longer have claim to that land. They were moved to Oklahoma. That's where the claims are, and we're going to see that in another article we're going to read. Yes.
Are there any Cherokees still alive?
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember
Absolutely.
the thing that was
Yeah, but that's just
No, but the Cherokee.
Oklahoma, right?
We were talking about Eastern. The Cherokee right now and the Choctaw and those. A lot of them are in Oklahoma. We're going to see that in a
Did
second.
anyone go back to Georgia?
They
No,
couldn't.
Still probably
They're not as
Still
native
can't.
land. There's no. To my
Oh, yeah,
best of my
they
knowledge,
live
there's
in
no
like a
reservation.
special
Right.
place.
They were moved out.
They
They were
still live in
moved
Oklahoma.
out. Remember the Treaty of New Dakota said, "You're giving this land to us. We're sending you west of the
They're in
Mississippi."
the
Voices are off. Yes, Akella.
So when I said that Creek Nation imposed harsh terms during peace negotiations, what was one of those harsh terms?
That's a Google question.
harsh.
Okay. Because right now we're not. Right now we're just looking for how to do our introduction. Voices are off. His treaty punished both the Red Sticks and the Creek, who had fought by his side. Well, here's one of the harsh terms: with the cession, giving up 23 million acres, nearly half of their land. So that's a pretty harsh term, to give up half your land. His terms and unwillingness to negotiate earned him the Creek nickname of Shark Knife. So that's why they call him Shark Knife, because he wouldn't give in. Sounds like our current president, correct? With the the shutdown. Jackson was born, and this is interesting about Jackson. Jackson was born in South Carolina in 1767. So was he born when the United States was an independent country? No, he's born in 1767. What wars pretty much ended or going? Do you remember from last year? French and Indian War. Okay, so it was right after that. His father, Andrew, an immigrant from Northern Ireland, had died just days earlier. So when he was 14, he fought against the British in the Revolutionary War. According to historians, Jackson was taken prisoner by the British, and a soldier cut him with a sword when Jackson refused to polish his boots. So if you're interested in presidential trivia, I believe he's the only president who was a prisoner of war by the British or whatever. So he's, Jackson was tall with narrow head, piercing eyes. He was a slave owner with a cruel streak. He had killed a man in a duel in Kentucky in 1806 after the man made rude comments about Jackson's wife, Rachel. In 1813, Jackson, then a U.S. Army major, led a massacre against Creek Indians in the Mississippi Territory. He also went into what was then Florida, which was not part of the colonies. It was part of what Spain owned. And he went in without permission. So he was very, he didn't listen to authority. He just acted on his own, swashbuckler. His assessment of the Cherokee, assessment means what?
Test.
Well, it can mean a test.
It's seeing
That Marissa
Like
has her
his
hand up.
understanding or like his overview.
Right, his overview of the Cherokee. So listen to this quote. Established in the midst of a superior race, they must disappear. Who's the superior race?
No, the white people, the
The
English.
whites, the English, the settlers. So the Cherokee
Wait.
are in the middle of the superior race, and
No, but
they
they're saying
must
that Cherokees
disappear.
must disappear.
No,
Yeah.
they're saying
Yeah. Oh, I thought you meant who
They're
was the
saying
superior
no.
race. No, no.
the superior race, like the
It's the white.
Cherokees are in the place where the white people should
So
be.
they need to
so
disappear.
they need to go.
And did they disappear?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. A year after becoming, now this is important. We talked about this a little bit. Stop. A year after becoming this country's first populist president, and this is what we talked about, there was a people from the lower ranks up elected him, much like Donald Trump. He's considered a populist president because he had a message and the people, wanted him, and he was different. He wasn't your typical politician. It's the same thing for Jackson. He laid out his Indian removal strategy in his second annual message to Congress. So he's elected president. The second time you can get it. The second time he talks to Congress, he gives out his plan for what he plans to do with the indigenous people. Yes.
I know there's a law that passed saying that a president can't be president for more than 2 terms.
That was not in effect when he was president. That didn't come into count until after Franklin Delano Roosevelt, because he was elected 4 terms, and after that's when that rule was passed. Yes.
Wait, if you want to run for president in 2 terms, it has to be in a row, right?
There's been
No,
presidents
no.
who have skipped,
Not at all.
but not many. I mean, usually they
No,
do,
but-
but it's not. You don't have to.
Only one though, right?
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, it's unusual. But let's not. You guys are great at getting off topic. Let's get back to this. Voices are off. Voices are off. Remember, we said gold had been discovered. I'll wait. Thank you. We talked about gold had been discovered in northern Georgia, which was the territory of the Cherokee. The Indian Removal Act cleared the way for white gold prospectors to seize the land. And then we also talked about this U.S. Supreme Court ruling. Yes, Akela?
The prospector.
A prospector, those are ones who go out looking for gold or diamonds or minerals. The U.S. Supreme Court had issued a ruling attempting to prevent Georgia from removing the Cherokee, but Jackson, who appears on the $20 bill, not for much longer, ignores the decision. Remember we talked about that. The Supreme Court, which is the judicial, they,
Go out looking for gold.
I'll wait, I'll wait, I'll wait.
Andrew Jackson.
Ow.
Ladies and gentlemen, Harris. So the Supreme Court says that the Cherokee can keep their land, but Jackson says, I'm not gonna listen to this, and he just does what he says. On December 6, 1830, Jackson predicted in his written address to Congress that removal would relieve Mississippi and Alabama of Indian occupancy. What does occupancy mean?
There.
Right.
Eliana, please come to the art room. Eliana
Enabled
Jackson,
those
please come to the
states
art
to
room.
advance rapidly in population, wealth, and power. Jackson said he believed that pushing Native Americans from their homelands would enable them to pursue happiness in their own way and under their own rude institutions. The Native Americans, under the protection of the government, would be forced or compelled through the influence of their own councils to cast off their savage habits, become an interesting, civilized, and Christian community. What were the Cherokees already?
Civilized.
Civilized. They were one of the 5 civilized tribes already. Will.
What does compelled mean?
Forced. Zakella.
So when I said they were one of the 5 civilized tribes, did the government already name them that before they were moving?
Well, they're just kind of, they're known as, because they did everything they were supposed to do. They had written language, they had government, they were educated, many of them were Christian. Jackson said the consequences, some of them so certain, the rest so probable, make the complete execution of the plan sanctioned by Congress, approved by Congress at their last session, an object of much solicitude. So we've been talking about it a lot. Yes.
Oh, okay.
Tribes including the Creek, Seminole, Choctaw, and Chickasaw were marched hundreds of miles to what the government called Indian Territory in Oklahoma. In 1836, Cherokee Chief John Ross, remember we read his speech, who led his people west, wrote in a letter they'd been stripped of their freedom, our property has been taken, violence has been committed against us. We've talked about Chief Ross. Our hearts are sickened, so this we've already said, I don't wanna repeat, but, so that is, in fact, Ernest, we talked about John Ross, he doesn't like it, so what, I'll get you in 1 second, Keller, so what I want you to do now in your groups is I want you to take this information, and I see some of you have been highlighting, I see some of you have been writing, and take that information, look at the different ways we can create an introduction, and use this information to write an introduction for our first essay, which is what is good about, why is Trail of Tears a good name for what occurred?
So not
this.
everyone's doing reflection. Oh, is that the one?
That's the one everybody's doing. So, however your group decides to do it, but each group, I'm gonna set the timer for like 10 minutes, and I want you to come up using information from this document, because and again, decide, am I gonna do a
I'll be the
quote?
scribe.
Am I gonna do a background story? Am I going to add some expertise? How am I going to, which one am I gonna use? And how am I going to put this, to get somebody interested in reading this article?
I'll
Yes.
write it.
And Alyssa, if you could, shut that off, please.
Like John